Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Mindspeak. It is a privilege to be hosting His Excellency Ambassador Robert F. Godec. If I can just make a couple of quick comments. I'd like to firstly thank the Intercontinental because I saw Carl here very momentarily. And in 2011, when President Museveni said, yes, I'll do a Mindspeak, I had to find a place very quickly. And they were very, very supportive. So I'd just like to give a shout out to the Intercontinental. Ambassador Robert F. Godec, and I was doing my analysis this morning and reading up about him. Let me read you his resume and then hopefully I can make some observations if I may. Robert F. Godec was nominated by President Obama on September the 19th, 2012 to be the next US ambassador to Kenya and sworn in by the Secretary of State Clinton on January the 16th, 2013. Ambassador Godec was assigned as the Chargé d'Affaires at the US Embassy, Nairobi, Kenya in August 2012. Prior to his assignment in Nairobi, Ambassador Godec was the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Bureau of Counterterrorism in the Department of State. From 2006 to 2009, he served as US Ambassador to Tunisia, and of course that was at the time of Ben Ali, President Ben Ali, and I think his famous wife, Leila Trabelsi, if I remember correctly. quite a lady it seemed. Ambassador Godec has also served as a Deputy Assistant Secretary in the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs and was Deputy Coordinator for the transition in Iraq. He's been at the coalface of the big global events, charged with organizing the transition of policy, operational elements of the Coalition Provisional Authority, and the stand-up of US Mission Iraq. Before his work on Iraq, Ambassador Godec was acting Deputy Chief of Mission and Minister Counselor for Economic Affairs at the US Embassy, Pretoria, South Africa. He has also served as Economic Counselor at the US Embassy, Nairobi, Kenya, Assistant Office Director for Thailand and Burma in the Bureau of East Asian and Pacific Affairs, and Director for Southeast Asian Affairs at the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative. Ambassador Godec joined the Foreign Service in 1985, has a Master of Arts degree in International Relations from Yale University, as well as a Bachelor of Arts degree in Foreign Affairs from the University of Virginia. He attended the State Department's senior seminar and has received a Presidential Meritorious Service Award, a Distinguished Honor Award, and many other awards and commendations. Ambassador Godec is married to Laurie G. Magnuson. My observations are the following. He is a very keen jogger because I come from the Kiambu Road in the morning and there's a little shortcut in Muthaiga, and quite often I see the ambassador and his security people trying to keep up with him because he's very quick. Another thing I would like to touch on is his love of elephants. I don't know if you saw, there's a wonderful pic up somewhere of the ambassador feeding a tiny little elephant with a bottle. I think it's one of my favorite photographs. And extremely erudite, if you can see from his resume. We were just talking inside about Tunisia pre the Arab Spring, Iraq. His Excellency told me that he actually was responsible for putting up the embassy in the green zone. And then here in Kenya, it's a very exciting moment to have His Excellency here with us because, of course, we've got President Obama's visit. And I remember the day President Obama came into power, I think it was 2008. And I remember that morning we heard the news and I met everyone I met. It was so excited. It was as if it was an election, our election, not an American election. So it's a really exciting moment. And I'm sure His Excellency will tell us about US and Kenya relations. And then a couple of comments I saw this morning. There was one interview with His Excellency on Politico. And in it he said, he likes to talk to people, he likes to meet people from all kinds of walks of life, and he said that an open mind is what his philosophy was. And I would like to think that today We got a chance to meet Kenyans at Mindspeak, and we can have a chance to listen to what His Excellency has got to say. So the stage is yours, sir. Thank you so much.
Ali Khan, thank you very much. Hamjambo. Habari zenu? Mambo? It is really, really wonderful to be here this morning with all of you, even though it's a Saturday morning, when, frankly, I should probably be asleep, or maybe jogging, maybe out running. That would be good too. But I also know you have a saying here in Kenya, ukitaka usitawi sharti uvumilia, or if you want success, prepare for hardship. So I guess getting up on Saturday morning, but I do hope that it will be worth the hardship, worth the difficulty. And I do hope we have a conversation today. So I do have a number of things to say, but I do hope we have a conversation afterwards, and I'm very much looking forward to all of your questions. So it really is a great pleasure to be here with many leaders in Kenya, young people, so many great Kenyans. So thank you for coming. So in just a few short weeks, we will have two major events that will further strengthen U.S.-Kenya relations. The United States and Kenya will co-host the Global Entrepreneurship Summit in Nairobi, and President Obama will visit Kenya. Both of these are a sign of the U.S. commitment to our relations with Kenya, and indeed, our relations with Africa. They're going to build on last year's U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit in Washington. But before I say much more about the visit by President Obama or the summit, I want to say a few words about Africa generally, about Kenya, and about the U.S.-Kenya partnership. Africa is on the move, and Kenya is helping to lead the way. This really is, it's quantifiable and it's real. And I've spent a lot of time in Africa, so I have some baseline to judge it against. So check the facts on Africa. 6 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world are in Africa. Manufacturing and retail are expanding at an unprecedented rate. And the fastest growing telecommunications markets in the world are here in Africa. And check the facts on Kenya. Kenya's economy leads the East African community in trade and production. It boasts the 5th largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa, and it's an African leader in mobile technology. In short, without running through a lot of numbers, there is a new African story. It's defined by innovation, dynamism, reform, and freedom. And I've witnessed the stories firsthand, the stories of the transformation that's taking place. At the iHub, where young Kenyan computer engineers are writing world-class software. In Kibera, where Kennedy Odede and the community are working together to educate young girls, to provide health care, clean water for thousands of people, and to create new economic opportunities in this informal settlement. And I've seen it with Kenyan self-help groups in Mombasa, in Turkana, in Siaya, in Nyeri, all across this great country. They're innovating and they're finding new ways to create jobs and build a future. As Kenya builds its future, the United States is here as a partner. Our relations are a dense and intricate and enduring web of social, cultural, economic, and political ties based on shared values that really transcend the day-to-day newspaper headlines. The United States has been Kenya's steadfast partner for 51 years. We support the ideals in Kenya's 2010 Constitution. We support Vision 2030. We want Kenya to be strong, successful, and prosperous. And we stand with you in practical ways. More than 100 American companies are here in ICT, in auto manufacturing, consumer goods, and much more. Our universities are here. The University of Nairobi alone has more than 50 partnerships with American universities and colleges, more than 50 partnerships with American universities and colleges. And of course, the US government is working closely with the government and people of Kenya as well. Today, the United States invests roughly 80 billion Kenya shillings annually in everything from healthcare to education to agriculture. USAID, which has been here since the 1960s, continues to work all across this great country to promote trade and economic growth, to protect wildlife, to improve healthcare and education, and to assist in civic education and help build devolution, one of the most important things that's happening in this country today. Our Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Office, which is the largest CDC presence, the largest CDC operation in the world outside the United States, is right here in Kenya. And our CDC researchers and doctors are working together with Kenyan researchers and doctors to control some of the world's most dangerous diseases, including malaria and tuberculosis. The President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, or PEPFAR, is helping to stop the HIV epidemic. And every day, we help keep alive 750,000 Kenyans with antiretroviral drugs. The embassy also works to connect American and Kenyan businesses to one another, building the network of trade that is bringing together our two countries, helping to lift people out of poverty. We're constantly developing new programs and new ways to work together. So Kenya is now part of something called the Security Governance Initiative, a new joint endeavor introduced at the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit. And it offers a comprehensive approach to improving security sector governance and is building capacity to address threats. Kenya has 86 Young African Leaders Initiative Fellows. And these are just a few of the many partnerships aimed at helping Kenya to build a solid foundation for the future. And today, our governments also work together on a range of regional and even global challenges. So we're working together to help end the conflicts in Somalia and South Sudan. We're working together to help stop climate change. And on behalf of the United States, I would just like to express our appreciation for everything that Kenya is doing to help address these issues. Now, like every nation, including my own, Kenya does face challenges as it strives to strengthen democracy, build prosperity, and ensure security. Kenya, of course, faces a serious threat from al-Shabaab and violent extremists. Now, we stand with Kenya in the fight against terrorism. And we mourned with Kenya recently when 148 people were brutally murdered in Garissa University College by al-Shabaab. Terrorism is a global challenge. It affects every nation, every region, and every religion. We provide information, equipment, and training to Kenya in this effort. And building a real foundation for security in Kenya and elsewhere is a critical goal for both our countries. It requires, fundamentally, steadfast respect for human rights by governments and security forces. It requires a strong and sustained outreach to all communities. The rule of law is an essential foundation of enduring peace, and peace is what enables communities to resist alienation, radicalization, and extremism. Community outreach and respect for the rights enshrined in Kenya's Constitution are the best guarantees of security. It's also the right thing to do. Corruption is a long-standing problem, and the Kenyan government has taken some important steps in recent months to fight corruption. Corruption threatens Kenya's economic growth and security. It reduces investment, and in particular, it drives away foreign investors. It fundamentally undermines Kenya's future. So the United States welcomes the recent indictments and arrests and Kenya's efforts to battle this scourge. To win this fight, however, to win the fight against corruption, Kenya is going to need sustained action and follow-through to include independent and vigorous investigation into all reports of corruption, fair and speedy trials conducted in full accord with the rule of law, and appropriate sentences for those who are convicted of crimes. Ensuring that civil society and the media have space to do their work and the freedom to speak are also vital for Kenya's future. Freedom is a great catalyst. When individuals have liberty to speak and organize and associate, they're able to solve problems and overcome challenges, to create and innovate. And civil society and a free media are essential to a strong nation. And the United States very much stands with civil society and with the free media. So there are some challenges. There are certainly others that I have not really talked about, including unemployment and income inequality, to name just two. But as President Obama said during an event around the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit, even as Africa continues to face enormous challenges, even as too many Africans still endure poverty and conflict, hunger and disease, even as we work together to meet those challenges, we cannot lose sight of the new Africa that is emerging. As you work to build the future Kenyans want, the United States will stand with you. Two concrete ways we're going to do so are the Global Entrepreneurship Summit and the visit of President Obama. The United States and Kenya will co-host the 6th Annual Global Entrepreneurship Summit in Nairobi on July 25 and 26. The summit will be preceded on July 24th by the Global Entrepreneurship Summit Youth and Women's Program for 2015, which is an official pre-summit event that will convene about 150 up-and-coming entrepreneurs from around the world. President Obama first announced the Global Entrepreneurship Summit in 2009 in Cairo. And since then, the United States has expanded its programs, focused on innovation, and built a coalition of public and private sector groups to educate and support entrepreneurs globally. From Turkey to the United Arab Emirates, from Malaysia to Morocco, the global entrepreneurship summits that have been held have brought together thousands of business leaders, foundations, and entrepreneurs. And in July, the Global Entrepreneurship Summit will finally come to Sub-Saharan Africa. It will come to Sub-Saharan Africa for the first time, and we have joined with Kenya, with the government and people of Kenya, to bring the summit to Nairobi. And our decision to do so is a mark of our confidence in Kenya. It will be an opportunity to celebrate Kenya's entrepreneurs and to let the world see just what they can do. We believe, President Obama believes, that at the summit in Nairobi, we will be able to announce new investments and new commitments that will pay off for years to come. More broadly, we know that by bringing people together, business leaders and young people, social entrepreneurs, technology innovators, we will build contacts and connections and opportunities that will last for years to come. Previous summits make clear what is possible. One summit alumnus, Zaid Sankari, was able to fund his company, Cardio Diagnostics, and build new manufacturing partnerships in the United States through connections that he made at one of the summits. So today, Cardio Diagnostics is one of Lebanon's most successful biomedical firms, and it's hiring fast. It's creating jobs. Other summit participants have been able to find new clients, interest new investors, sell businesses, or develop new partnerships. So one of the best things about this summit when it comes at the end of July will be to connect entrepreneurs and small and medium enterprises, venture capitalists, people to the global economy. Provide the space for new connections. It'll be a place that will provide space for new connections and new deals that will enable businesses to take off. So the summit will be an extraordinary opportunity for Kenya, for Africa, and for the world. And I'm certainly very, very much looking forward to it. Finally, let me say a few words about President Obama's trip here. A recent blog by some White House officials put it very well. Just as President Kennedy's historic visit to Ireland in 1963 celebrated the connections between Irish Americans and their forefathers, President Obama's trip will honor the strong historical ties between the United States and Kenya and all of Africa. From the millions of Americans who traced their ancestry to the African continent, to the more than 100,000 Americans who live in or visit Kenya each year. Having the Global Entrepreneurship Summit and President Obama in Nairobi in July speaks to the importance of Kenya to the United States. Now, we're still working on President Obama's program, but it will obviously include an engagement with the entrepreneurs who are at the summit, and it'll include a meeting with President Kenyatta. I think you can be sure, too, it will include a component of people-to-people contact. Now, many possible events are under discussion. And contrary to what you may have seen in some of the newspapers, final decisions have not yet been made, and much remains to be done. So, for example, I can assure you that President Obama's car is not yet in Nairobi. But stay tuned. It will get here, and we will announce the details of the President's program soon. And you can be confident that the program will reflect the President's personal commitment to Kenya, to Africa, our shared values, and to our strong relations. So in conclusion, there is a new African story being written today. And the United States very much wants to be part of that story. We want a new model of partnership with Africa. We want a partnership of equals. We want a partnership based on shared values and interests and on mutual respect. We want a partnership that will be a driving force in the development of the world in the 21st century. We want a partnership that will build a better and brighter future for Kenyans and for Americans, and indeed for everyone all around the world. Pamoja tusonge mbele. Thank you very much. Asanteni sana.
Thank you.
And I think I'm ready for a few questions.
You are?
Interesting, and I like that parallel between, all this week people came and asked me, Ambassador, what does it mean? What's the economic impact of this visit? Is there an economic impact? And I think you just answered that question, actually, so very interesting. And I thought the parallel between John F. K's visit to Ireland and President Obama's visit to Kenya, very interesting, and I really hope it's of something of that parallel comes into effect.